money, so we're very happy he's helping us out.
You have the honors to record now.
Thank you very much. Again, welcome Joris. You're a designer, inventor, expert in 3D printing. You're ready to take the floor?
Yes, I will share the screen.
Super. I know you'll introduce yourself with the projects, but we spoke last week, and what was really insightful for me was the way you make trade-offs between precision, quality, functionality in your projects. So I want to give this to the audience as well as an extra reminder as to ask questions, because we can really learn a lot from you. Take the floor.
Yeah, I prepared a small presentation, but I think, as you said, it's not about the presentation. It's just as a warm up maybe, and to get an idea of some of the projects I did in the past. It will be a sort of chronological way of things I did. I did way more, but so if you have other projects, then I can talk as well. This is me. I'm Joris. I'm trained as a product design engineer. I do a lot with digital fabrication. If Nadia was not here, I wanted to say that I was one of the lab managers of the first Fab Lab in the Netherlands, but it's actually not completely true, because I think Nadia started the real first Fab Lab in the post-CS building 1 year before I think the first 3 Fab Labs, digital fabrication labs.
Post-CS building. Last time I checked, it wasn't there anymore.
No, not there anymore. And in 2008, sort of 3 labs in the Netherlands started. One of them was Prototype, where I was one of the managers. And the other one was Amsterdam, De Waag. And they took it over from sort of the Mediamatic, who really started the first Fab Lab 2 years before, and The Hague. And that's also where I got into digital fabrication and 3D printing. And especially 3D printing, because that's where we started a masterclass, Build Your Own 3D Printer. And that's how I got into 3D printing, because most people wanted to build a robot or something, just to do something in the evening. And I wanted to use the machine for making things as a product designer. I was not really mechanical engineer or
Je microfoon is opeens verborgen. Je hebt je,
Die van mij of die van jou?
Die van Joris. Of kunnen jullie hem allemaal goed horen?
Ik hoor hem, hij heeft zijn mond nog. Hij praat volgens mij nu niet. Toch, Joris? Oh, nee, we horen je niet meer en je bent niet gemute.
Weird.
Oh, je bent terug.
Ja?
Nu horen we je weer. Het hangt van het plaatje af.
So here is no...
Ja, nou hoor ik je.
Okay. When I like to make things, to test things as fast as possible. So that gives these interesting situations where you think, okay, I don't want to build the whole thing. Let's test first. We need some more hands to hold it, and then see what's happening. And not such a nice bit, sort of behind the scenes things on, okay, it barely works. A lot of things doesn't go well, but I'm just checking the things that do go well. And that's really, yeah.
And this stems from a project you wanted to do that you needed it for, or was this the phase of finding out the possibilities?
No, this was actually one of the first prototypes for making a larger extruder for, I think it was for the Kamermaker, for the 3D print kennel house, because at that time there were no granulate extruders affordable. So I was thinking, okay, if I can line up 3 wires for 3D printing in one, let's see if we can print bigger. And this actually was mounted also in the Kamermaker in the first time. And here it's mounted on a CNC milling machine, where I used the Ultimaker electronics to drive the machine. So it was a really also fast hack, actually, just by bypassing all the difficult things and using the technique I know, which is 3D printers and 3D printing. And this was actually the first, maybe first 3D print shop in the world. This was here behind me. I'm based in Amsterdam. And there was a big shopping mall, Magna Plaza, and it was empty for 30–40%. And they asked creative people to do something in that space for a month. And I had the 3D printer for 2 months at that time. And I thought, okay, that would be nice. And my idea was, okay, if you want to do 3D printing, I don't think it's used for prototyping. I really think it's production. And what can you produce? And especially what can you produce for consumers and not for industrial base? So I drilled out the nozzle so there's more plastic coming out, because if you want to print something big, then you need more plastic coming out, because then it probably goes faster. And I designed objects which you can print in a few minutes to within so as a consumer you can wait for it. And this was actually in 2011, as you can see. And one of the founders of Ultimaker, Erik Brand, likes this. This was my start of Facebook also, but it's still a funny story. And what I really like is if you can create something, and that's also why Nadia likes to make things and likes other people to make things, that if you can make something yourself, it has much more value. If you find a piece of plastic on the street, it's worth nothing. If you know this piece of plastic is 3D printed, then it got some value. But if you see it 3D printing, then it is way more value. But if you can even push the buttons and create the thing yourself, then it's sort of priceless. And it's the same as making your own cookies. It's not per se that they taste better, but you're more happy with it. And the same you saw like 20 years ago, people who built their own website, they were really proud of it. You couldn't understand the complete user interface, but it was really nice that they made their website themselves. And that's the same with product design, especially in this stage, because now everybody can create things. Does it make sure that it will be the best things that will be created? And it's not only in product design. I think product design is one of the latest professions. Before we had it in graphic design, mid-90s, a word came with word art. Everybody was able to make a nice birthday card. It's not that the graphic design got better, but everybody was able to do some sort of graphic design. And the same now is also for product design. And I think everybody can create whatever he wants. I did some fun things with it. So this is actually, the machine is here printing. It was the design week in Milan. And even here, I really like that people could create the thing themselves. So I here put it on the table. And I was actually sitting on this side of the table, drinking beers and having fun, because I explained to one girl how she could create her own bracelet. I told her the concept. It cost €1 per minute. So if you print it faster, it's cheaper, but maybe less quality. And if you stop it earlier, it's less big, but maybe good enough. And the next one who wants something, then she explained to the next person what to print. So I was actually sort of, the printer was making his money for itself. So it was just a funny experiment, I think. And I did a lot of fun experiments. This is at this, if you now see two 3D printers, it's not so special anymore, but this was 2010, 2011, I think. And then I brought at the workshop, it's V2 in Rotterdam, I brought 8 3D printers for a workshop for 2 days. So that was really special. And the first day, we didn't even touch a laptop or computer. I wanted to learn them how to use the machine and how to abuse the machine. So I put some files on the printer, and then I said, okay, just touch, abuse, turn the knobs, and don't go back. Don't start on the laptop, because it takes a lot of time. And that's also maybe my idea of education. You see a lot of people, okay, we're gonna learn 3D printing. It takes 8 weeks, and in the elementary schools or high schools, and then the first 7 weeks is open your laptop, we start to design things, and then the last day it is, okay, you can now hit print. And that's not my idea of what 3D printing is. I think it's maybe not a profession, but an ambacht, a craftsmanship. It's a tool. And if you know how to use the tool better, then you can do more with it than if you don't know the tools. And there are many different tools, and you can do many different things with it. But you just see it as a tool. And then if you know the tool very well, you also know how to abuse the tool for things without breaking it, or but do other things with it. So that was really nice. And this is actually a pop-up store in New York in 2013 or 2012. And I said before, I never thought that I never believed that 3D printing was only for prototyping. I really thought, okay, this should be production, and it can be production. And if you design things for this type of technology, then you can really make a production factory with it. And I brought like 20 Ultimakers to that shop for 2 months. And I put 12 of them in a grid, and I could start them from my phone. And I designed a pile, a cup or something else. And if you can design it, which can be printed within 30 minutes, then you can produce 5,000 objects a week. That has nothing to do with prototyping. And that's just an investment of 10, 12 machines. At that time, maybe 10,000, 15,000 euros. At this time, maybe 3,000 euros. I still think it's really interesting that you can make a complete factory for 10, 20,000 euros. If you want to make a conveyor belt for something, then you need 500,000 or maybe more. So you can or save your money for it, or you can borrow it from friends or family, or you can go to a bank. But it's not like you need a lot. You know, you can say, okay, don't buy a new car this year. I get my own factory. And this was 2012, and a lot of at that time the 3D printers were still, that's for the hobbyist. That's just plastic. You cannot do anything with it. So it was, but a few years later, I did the same when the Ultimaker to Go game, and that was also sort of a hobby project of one of the founders of Ultimaker and me. Said, okay, let's do it again, but not with the wooden machines, but with the new ones. And it was not really planned also inside Ultimaker. That was also the fun part of it. But Erik and me were making it, and once it was there, every people who visited the company, they said, hey, that's a nice farm, I want that one. And I think at this moment, Ultimakers don't sell one machine, they just sell print farms. Because I think, yeah, that's also the way to go. And yeah, so that's...
Do you have examples for what kind of products?
A lot of, yeah,
companies?
maybe more in general. If you want to start making things, there's a sort of first should be non-visible, maybe non-functional. That's the easy part because you cannot see them. They're not really functional, so it doesn't matter if they break, but you need them. And then maybe the next step is non-visible but functional. And then the most difficult part is, or maybe visible, non-functional. And then the visible and functional part. That's the difficult thing. But maybe you shouldn't target at that part first. And there are a lot of functional parts which you don't see, where you can design for it, and then you have way more design freedom to make things. And there are lots of use cases also on the Ultimaker website where they print jigs and pictures for factories or for robotic arms and conveyor lines. And I think there's even one company in Germany, if you buy a conveyor belt with them and a robotic arm, you also get the catalog with files to make adapters for their different packaging systems. And you can download them. You get the 3D printer with the conveyor belt, so you can print your own adapter. So that's really the whole interesting ecosystem where you can work for. And in 2013, I decided to I have to flip the Ultimaker around. That's the short story. The long story was I wanted to print taller things, and in the lab we had like a high machine because we could laser cut their own frame. So we built a machine which could print 80 centimeters high, and I was thinking, okay, let's make another big machine, but now for me in the studio or at home. And then I thought, yeah, but I already have 2 3D printers at home. Then I have another one. Maybe I can just flip the Ultimaker around and then flip the nozzle. So the nozzle points out the top, and then you can lift the machine. And in one weekend, I made this prototype. And I had a sheet of wood. This is the sliding door rails from the DIY store, the Gamma, I think. And I printed the gearbox because I didn't want to wait for the China quality, and I didn't want to spend money for the German quality. And I printed this, and it was actually sort of working. And I was surprised. And the 2 weeks later, or 1 week later, there's an advertising agency came by, with the question, can you print an elephant? And then I showed them this. I said, I can print this one. So I think so. And 3 months later, this was actually printed live at the Schiphol airport. And I did the same trick as flipping the Ultimaker. I designed and developed the rails to hang the printers on. And this was a whole product development from start to end within 3 or 4 months. And that's for Netherlands, that's extremely fast. I think in the Netherlands from ID to market takes about 2 years, maybe, and in average. And I really like to have a purpose to really develop a product within such a short amount of time. And did it sort of the same way as I did in the lab, just by making things very fast. And these rails were made of laser cutted steel, but even then I did like 2 or 3 iterations within 2 weeks. I made the file, I sent it over to a company who could laser cut it. It was also digital fabricated, and I got it back like a few days later. I could test something, I can make an iteration, I can make a different shape, do some adjustments, and make the other thing. And that's something I really like to see. And that's also the sort of beta testing of product design. And it's still not a final product. If I want to make another one, I can make exactly the same, but I can also adjust the files a little bit and then make exactly something different for the next run. And maybe this is oh, the video does. There's a time lapse also on the website, but then you can see the machines go up and down. And it was actually a commercial for. Oh, it does work. A campaign for the World Animal Protection to, if you promise not to write elephants again, then your name got engraved as the skin lines of the elephant. And everybody was sort of surprised that that this concept still was keeping alive every meeting of the advertising agency, because they first had it as one of the 3 concepts of what we can do. And every time this one just was, okay, next to the next round, okay, to the next round. And then we actually had to print the elephant. So that was a sort of interesting process. And in the end, the printing was not the problem, but the whole workflow to get the prints done, that was more difficult, because you have to get the names on, because I didn't know today what names to print on it for tomorrow. At one point, the 3D files were almost 2 or 4 gigabytes to slice them in layers so that the whole processing was really difficult. I had to buy new laptops, and then even still, it was almost impossible to print. And but it was a nice project. Oh yeah, I have one of the sheets we used to show at Protospace. We called it the product development in a maker's way. That you make like the small iterations. You can also directly test into the market, and you can really, if you want to make something, you don't need a lot of investment. And that's also the way I think a lot of products can be developed, and then you can learn from the market. And in software, it's quite normal that you have some beta product, but in hardware, it's more difficult to make beta testing. This is one of the other experiments. I think most of my ideas start as a sort of maybe sort of a serious joke, and most of the time I don't want to spend too much time on it, because I don't know if it will work. So most things, if I spend like 1 week, 2 days, 3 days on it, and then I see the potential, then maybe I do something else. But if I don't see the potential, then it just stops, or it lays on the shelf if something else comes by. And this was just before Sinterklaas, and we have like these chocolate letters. And the idea was to print chocolate initials or logos. And I went to the chocolate store around the corner, because I was thinking, if you want to print in chocolate, you don't need to be a technician. You need the chef in chocolate, because the printer thing is the easy part, and the chocolate and the kitchen thing, that's the difficult part. And that's yeah, if you see 3D printing or digital fabrication as tools, then I really think that mastering the tools is way easier than mastering a profession as a chef or something else. And you can better learn the professional how to use the tools than as a mechanic, if you know how to use the tool, to learn the other profession. So it's the other way around, how to use that. And these small experiments, these were small things, but these objects are actually solid chocolate sculptures. And I must admit, these are not printed in chocolate. The whole process, these sculptures is by a project by Renzo Martens. He had also on the IDFA new documentary this year. And the sculptures are made in clay in Congo on the former plantage. And there they were 3D scanned. I 3D printed them, and then molds were made. And in those molds, the chocolate was poured. So it's quite a process. But even then, the printing part is maybe the only digital part in it, but it's also the only possible way, because it was not possible to transfer the sculptures from Congo to here. It's very difficult to go with all the chemicals and make the molds over there and then bring it here and put the chocolate in. So it was also quite high tech, but also one of the few options you had to really do these kind of projects. And yeah, some of these sculptures weighed more than 90 kilos. So even making the chocolate, it was also quite an interesting process. And we also need other experts on that. So it was really nice to do. That was one of the patisseries guys, and also a world champion in making chocolate. I don't know how these contests go, but something like that.
Implying that the craftsmanship can be learned by using these tools, by mastering the tools, but you still have to have the ideas. I can craft also my own chocolate art. But what makes you unique is that you have the creativity to think about the elephant and other things. So maybe that's what decides on who's a real craft person versus a master of tools.
Yeah, but that's interesting, because if you ask the same question to somebody who plays soccer, it doesn't make, everybody can buy a football. No, and there's only a few people who can make money out of it, and everybody can cook something, but there's only a few people who can make money out of it. And
because they don't copy, they have their own unique talent in using it in the right way, maybe.
Yeah, but 30 years ago, it was impossible as a product designer to make my own things, because making a product was way too expensive. You didn't have the tools for that. And now we're starting having the tools that you can create whatever you want. And that's new for product design, but it's not new for graphic design recently. It's not new for photography, and it's definitely not new for playing soccer or doing sports and for many other things.
Yeah.
But because it's new for product design, and everybody's like, oh, what's happening here?
Yeah, that's true. I have two questions, but I think the first one is maybe for you can answer in the chat. It's about available freeware software. But there's also a question about robots, if you have ever 3D printed robots. And I don't know if you want to take it later, but I know it's one of your wishes to work more on robotics as well.
Yeah, maybe the last sheet. I will come back to that. This was another project, and then we 3D print Tom Dumoulin.
Because we have like 5.
Yeah, I think I can make it. And before you can print it, you have to 3D scan it. This was done with just a lot of digital still cameras here in Amsterdam, in Amsterdam. And with the 3D printed Tom Dumoulin, a scientist was able to work for more than 2 weeks in a wind tunnel and also to do different tests instead of having Tom Dumoulin for many times. And what you see here, looks very fancy, but this is a very strong laser beam, which you don't want to point on human beings. And what you normally do in a wind tunnel test is you blow against it and you see how much force it needs to be pushed back. And here they're blowing very tiny soap bubbles filled with helium, so they're the same weight of air. And you can light them up with the laser and you can actually follow the bubble to see how the airflow goes around the object. Sort of interesting special technique. And now they were able to do that on the real on Tom Dumoulin. This is another project, also some sort of science thingy. This is actually a 3D printed statue, but it's done with dual head printer I have here, and it's not just two colors, it's really like grayscale imaging. And the interesting technique behind this was actually by somebody who does his PhD now on at the TU Delft, but he worked at the Ultimaker, and he was saying if you put the layers on top of each other and you have this in white and this in black, then you get gray. But if you move the black more out, then you get darker gray, and if you move the white more out, you get lighter gray. And he made the software so you can actually do some grayscale bittering, and then you can really like grayscale. And what I really like, that this is one of the papers he wrote. What I really like about the statue, it was really like a snapshot of somebody in a house. It was not normally, if you see statues till now, everybody poses for the statue because it cost a lot of money to make a statue. It's the same as making a picture or a painting a few hundred years ago. You're posing in the best way to get on it. And this is maybe one of the first statues where he was not really posing. It was just a really like a 3D snapshot and then printed in, also a nice way to, because in this paper he did some really nice things you see here on the screen, but these objects were maybe 5 or 7 centimeters tall. And I wanted to like do a life-size thing with that, and I don't want to print for more than 2 years for the whole statue. My challenge is always, if you have to be able to print it in a few weeks or maybe in a few days, and then it gets more interesting. Yeah, I have a website that there's more projects, but if there are questions, I can refer to that. Also, some really funny jokes, printing on X and that kind of things. And this was one of the ideas I gave to some students in 2013 for the TU Delft. And that was the time where I was also working on the Kamermaak. So it's a 3D printer, the size of a shipping container. And we were printing with that machine, and it was producing 2 to 3 kilos material per hour. And that's the sort of way how I measure 3D printing speed. So how much material, how much grams per hour can you produce? And I was able to produce on one Ultimaker, if I really speed it up and design the right shape, to produce 200 grams per hour on one machine with high precision. And I was thinking, okay, if I combine like 9 machines printing simultaneously, then I can print 1800 grams per hour. It's almost 2 kilos per hour, but then you still have the gap. So you have to combine it by moving very slowly to fill the gaps. And this is, I think, a really interesting project. In the end, I did some experiments with just 2 machines printing the gap, but if you're bored for the next 6 years, I think you can do a lot of mathematics on this this idea and keep them all running at the same time and don't let them wait for each other. But that's a sort of short presentation of projects and things.
I'm muted. Thank you so much, Joris. A virtual applause.
Yeah.
For you. And it's really interesting. Maybe we can add Nadia, because you have to leave at 8 o'clock, Nadia. But I still want to ask we still have the question about the 3D robot printing. And Stijn is asking, also, have you tried resin 3D printing with a video projector on a transparent floor?
I did, wait, can I share the screen again? I did something with augmented reality, this one. And that was the idea of, this was also one of with together with Sander Veenhoff. We made the quick prototype in one afternoon, made a marker here, and then you could see what will be printed. And it was actually in time getting the physical and the virtual to
same, yeah.
together.
Nice. Stijn, you were asking about really big things. Is it okay that I save the question so that we can give Nadia the floor as well? Joris, you're staying, I hope?
Yeah.
So for everyone, just keep pushing questions also for Joris. There is one question about software that you might want to look at. And thank you very much. We're not finished talking and discussing, I think. But Nadia, I would like to give you the opportunity also to share some insights with us.